That's just incredible for me. That's simply incredible. Yeah, no, I have no words, sorry.
Está Borda, ¿no? La metió centro al segundo palo, vino al centro, la bajaron, quedó para Mainero. ¡Gol! ¡Gol!
Today on the inaugural Football Travel Pod, we touch down in Argentina, where a new campeón has been crowned, and we also go live to Brazil, where this weekend Neymar saw red for a failed hand of God attempt that became just a farewell wave. And Carlo Ancelotti has arrived in Brazil with one eyebrow raised at the size of the task in front of him. Can he save the Brazilian national team? Welcome, listener. It's Monday, June the 2nd. I'm here with Pedro Umberto in Rio de Janeiro. How you doing, Pedro?
Hi, Joe. I'm fine.
Oh, good.
Thanks. A bit cold here, around 22, 23 degrees Celsius. That is for us. Carioca are cold. So, yeah.
What a privilege. Winter in Rio, 22, 23 degrees. Guy is joining us from Argentina, our Buenos Aires correspondent. Guy, is there more of a real winter down in Buenos Aires? And welcome to the show.
Look, similar situation to Pedro. It doesn't sound that cold. It's about 17 degrees, but there's a humidity in the air that makes it really cold. I mean, I don't know if you can hear me, how my throat is, but I'm a bit under the weather. Let's put it that way.
For listeners to know, Guy and Pedro hopefully will be joining us on a lot of these football travel podcasts. They are both football journalists living and working respectively in Rio de Janeiro and Buenos Aires, covering events on the ground there in the domestic leagues and, of course, with the international teams and things like the Copa Libertadores, about which we will speak today. I'm your host, Joseph O'Sullivan, usually writing also on South American football for Forbes or making content on football travels on the socials as well. The aim of this pod is not just to inform you about incredible stories happening in the world of football, but also to transport you to these places. First of all, lads, this weekend we had a big final, not just in Argentina on Sunday, but also in Europe on Saturday. Let's start with you, Guy. Did you get a chance to watch the Champions League final, and what did you think?
I did. Look, we'll get into the Argentine final later, but they were completely different games, right? I mean, one was a close 1-0, but this was a 5-0 thumping. I don't think anyone expected something like that, right? Even though there were so many goals, I don't think it was the most entertaining game in the world. I mean, it was a clear win, and it was a game that who expected a 5-0 win? Who expected a 5-0 win? You know, PSG romped home.
100%. I don't think anyone expected quite that level of a thumping. A lot of people fancied the experience of Inter even to just about outweigh the rocket ship that has been PSG in the second half of the season anyway. Pedro, what do you think about the game?
For me, the biggest surprise wasn't the PSG performance. Because, I mean, since the beginning of this year, they were playing like they were in a great shape, playing really well. They are a great team, a great football team. But the biggest surprise for me was the Inter performance, mainly after the game against Barcelona. What they did, defending themselves, how they attack Barcelona. So I thought they would be like stronger. They would give more trouble to PSG. Of course, no one expected such a massive result, but was a bit disappointed with Inter performance.
Of course, Inter Milan, weeks ago were on for the treble, and within a week they lost 2 games in the league. They lost the semi-finals of the Coppa Italia to their rivals AC Milan. They then could have won the league on the final day, but didn't. Napoli, of course, lifting a second title in 3 years. And then at the final of the European Cup in Munich, they lost 3 out of 3 instead of completing what many dreamed of, a treble. So really, really tricky for Inter to come so far again, like they did against Man City a few years ago, and fall. And like Pedro mentioned there, I think everyone was a little bit disappointed that they didn't offer a bit more. Thuram and Lautaro never really got on the ball, never really got going. They looked overwhelmed. They almost looked like the younger team in the end, and PSG looked very, very comfortable from the start. Of course, a lot has been said of PSG's ownership, connections with Qatar, state-owned club essentially. At the same time, a lot of wonderful stories emerged from this final.
Sana está con la familia y con todos sus amigos. Todos los días, se gane, se pierda, se levante uno de mal humor, se levante de buen humor. Cuando uno ama a personas desde el corazón, siempre está conmigo, siempre está con mi familia. Y hoy seguro que estaría por aquí corriendo.
I think everyone knew going into the final about Luis Enrique and the tragic loss of his daughter after he won the treble with Barcelona. He became just the second manager of all time to complete a treble twice when he did it again with PSG, and immediately put on a t-shirt which was a tribute to his late daughter Jana, that passed away very sadly after a bone cancer illness. Then, of course, the PSG Ultras revealed a magical tifo which depicted Jana and Luis Enrique putting a PSG flag in the middle of the pitch, as they had done when Barca won years before. So it was definitely an emotional night. Other stories emerged. Rafael Paul, the assistant manager, we learned lost his wife tragically to a long-term illness just last year. Rafael, you could see, was bawling on the touchline before the game even finished. And one of my favorite stories is Willian Pacho, only 23 years old, the Ecuadorian centre-back. He was fantastic on the night, made a sort of last gasp clearance on his own touchline to send the ball back up the pitch when it was just 1-0. In the end, that became the second goal. The first ever Ecuadorian to win the European Cup. And he did so wearing the number 51 in honor of his mother, who a few years ago passed away at 51 years of age. So for all the glitz and glamour of the Champions League, I think sometimes we get lost in the show business, but it shows you a lot of remarkable stories on the side of both players and managers that drives them to the top of football now. And particularly the Pacho, Paul and Luis Enrique stories were sort of magical things to remember so gracefully by Luis Enrique on the night and in victory. So well done to them. Now we are going to start diving into South America with you, Pedro, your beloved Botafogo, and a crazy game this Sunday when they went to visit Neymar and Santos. Lots of controversy down there. What happened, Pedro?
So yesterday, Botafogo visit Santos at Vila Belmiro, and Neymar, no one's know about his healthy status, but last news told us that he suffered something during the practice, but he did start the game and he was playing well. Santos right now is at the relegation zone and they were playing great. Actually, they were much better than Botafogo. Just remember, Botafogo is the reigning champions, national champions. They had a bit slow beginning of season, beginning of championship. They played just 10 games, league games, so it's even the beginning of the season. So Santos were playing good. Neymar was playing really well, but out of nowhere, he got a yellow card in the first half. And during the second half, it was all about Santos. Santos were bombing Botafogo. Out of nowhere, Neymar tried to make, actually not tried, he made it, go with a handball. La mano de adios, because this might be the last game of Neymar at Santos already. Neymar got his second yellow card. He was sent off, and Botafogo puts a lot of forwards in the game and won it. In the first half, the Botafogo fans were booing, were mocking Neymar, and the TV shows, he was like provoking Botafogo fans. And you can read his lips, and he says, I will score a goal and I will go there. And he did score a goal, but with hands. He was sent off. Botafogo won the game. Santos stay at the relegation zone. And no one's know about Neymar's future. His contract ends right now. At this moment, they probably won't stay at Santos. And it's a bit frustrating for every point of view. So, yeah, that's the Neymar experience this weekend.
It's tricky, isn't it? Recently had the pleasure of talking to Tim Vickery down in Rio. We spent a lot of time talking about Neymar and the amount of petulance we've seen from him recently. Everyone got very excited about his return to Brazil, and you can laud his talent, but you have to lament his attitude at the minute. You know, the yellow card, the first yellow card in the game, he's kicked out. It's a stupid tackle. There's no need.
Joe, sorry. He went to the Instagram after the game, and he was complaining about the first yellow card. And it's like, it's completely crazy. You see, it's like, what the hell you're talking, mate?
It was obviously a yellow card. He just kicked out at him. Very vocal and aggressive towards the referee. Like I said, saw a bit of lip reading, basically telling the referee that they were terrible. Then I saw that when he did his attempt at the hand of God, as if he forgot that, you know, VAR and cameras don't exist in this day and age. He then told the ref after he was trying to protect himself from the tackle coming in, and that's why he used his hands. And it's a bit pathetic, really, which is annoying because everyone got excited by Neymar's return. Everyone wants to see his talent and not this ugly side of the game. And of course, in Brazil, the dream is that he can get form and make a difference at the international level. And that looks way, way off at the minute.
That's the point. Like, as I told you, it's frustrating from each point of view. From Neymar's side, he probably thought before coming back to Santos that he would be fit, he would play well, and he would move back to Europe probably, or to play the World Cup, like the club's World Cup right now, or to be in a good shape for the World Cup next year. From Santos' point of view, it's frustrating because he basically didn't play at all. He scored only 3 goals, and all these goals were states championship, basically. They are in the relegation zone. They don't know about his future. And in Brazilian fans' point of view, it's like, I think Neymar thought that he would be like celebrated in every single stadium. You know, people were like supporting him. And in fact, it's the opposite. You know, people are mocking him. People are like provoking him. He's getting smaller each game, each week, you know, and he looks like he don't give up to Santos, you know. He was injured in a game, and he went to the Kings League final because his team at Kings League were playing in the same time Santos were losing at the national championship. So, I mean, what the hell is going on, mate? Even him don't know, you see. And right now, the thing is, next week, when Santos play again, there is a final from Kings League at Paris. Did he try to be sent off, to be like free to go, not travel with Santos, will not play with Santos, so he can go to the Kings League in Paris? That's the point, you know. No one's know nothing about Neymar intentions right now.
Meanwhile, Flamengo thrashed Fortaleza 5-0 at home. Obviously, Botafogo got that big win away. There was a few more draws around the league, but as we will come to in podcasts across the next few weeks, the Brazilian Serie A is only into the 10th or 11th match day, and it is highly, highly competitive. There's almost not too much of a point looking at the league at this point. Also, a note on the Champions League final. In podcast number 2, we will be joined by Emmett Gates, who writes for Forbes and Destination Calcio on Italian football, to see if things have calmed down in Milan and get the Inter point of view after that date with destiny that went oh so wrong in Munich. Now, going to Argentina, there was a massive final this weekend, Guy, between Boca Juniors and River. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Llévatela y se la llevó. El arco está libre. Le pegó como pudo. Señoras y señores, campeón platense. Campeón platense. campeón el Calamar, campeón, 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 campeón.
The two big dogs didn't even get close this time. We had Huracan and Platense, two relative minnows. Certainly Platense are a minnow from Buenos Aires. Huracan had not won a title since 2014. They hadn't won a league campaign since 1973. And that was the most recent of 5 top division titles, with the rest of those all coming between 1921 and 28. But they still haven't broken that duck, because yesterday they lost 1-0 in the Liga Profesional de Argentina final against Platense, the team who won the first ever major triumph in their 119 years of history. A mental story, Guy. Tell us a little bit about the mood in Argentina, the size of the story that is Platense winning the league.
Look, you summed it up perfectly. What a year, right? 2025. We've had Newcastle, 70 years, first trophy in 70 years. We've had Bologna winning their first trophy in 50 years, beating Milan. We've had Crystal Palace winning their first trophy ever. We've had Tottenham, 17 years since their last trophy. They won the Europa League against Manchester United. Platense, their first title ever. They've waited 100 years for this, and they deserved it. They absolutely deserved it. They came 6th in the group stage. Some journalists in Argentina have argued about the format of the league stage, and that this sort of 2 pools then joining to make a group, a round of 16, almost favours smaller teams that may not have done so well had it been a straight league format. But look, they went into the round of 16 knowing that if they got all the way to the final, they'd play every single round away from home. They played the round of 16 against Racing in the Cilindro, the Copa Sudamericana winners from last year. Admittedly, the second-rate competition here on this continent, but huge favourites Racing, favourites for the Copa Libertadores this year, perhaps, some might argue. They got past them in 90 minutes, faced River in the quarters, with arguably some help from the referee. River only just about managed to get to penalties, and Platense dispatched them on penalties with relative ease. They got to the semi-final against San Lorenzo in the Nuevo Gasómetro, and dispatched them within 90 minutes as well. So there's no way they didn't deserve this trophy. The final, they played on the front foot. They looked to attack. They didn't play with any fear. And the goal that Guido Mainero scored to win the trophy. I mean, we talked about the Champions League, and that 5-0 is a great result for PSG, and it's great to see a goal fest. But this was a tight match that was decided by a goal that was just incredible. I mean, the way it was floated into the box, and if anyone hasn't seen it, I recommend that you go and look for this goal, because Guido Mainero gets the ball, it's floated into the box, and he spins 180 degrees to swing his hip at it, and it just floats. It's a volley that almost sort of creeps in under the crossbar, and everyone goes mental. I mean, it's a goal that every Platense fan will remember for a long, long time.
Without comparing the 2 goals too much or disrespecting the one I'm about to mention, there was a little bit of the Zidane against Leverkusen swivel to that finish, no? It was magic, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, it's one of those where he's watched it and he's turned, because he knows he's not going to get onto it unless he turns away from the ball, and he swings his hip at it and gets his whole weight behind it. It just absolutely flies. It's a beauty. It's a goal that is more than worth its weight to win a final for them. Honestly, I mean, look, I had some sort of stake in the final. I've got friends that work at Huracan, that are journalists at Huracan, working in other disciplines like beach football, volleyball, and so on. But honestly, it's just a fantastic way to win a trophy, and so well deserved, given everything they've done.
Yeah, no, Platense, a lot of people are delighted to see no one that's ever won the tournament win it. They obviously have a couple of second division titles to get into the first division, but that is the first major title in their existence. A really, really relatively small club. Not far from River Plate, over there in the north zone of Buenos Aires, just the edge of the city towards the province. Of course, they had to go away to, as you mentioned, Guy, three of the traditional big five in Argentina, and they managed to beat them all and then win again in the final. In those four knockout games, 3 clean sheets, and they only conceded a penalty at the Monumental against River Plate. So it's really hard to argue that they didn't deserve this. You also alluded to the scheduling and the way the fixtures work in Argentina. It can change year by year, obviously, but so listeners have a bit of context. There is not one full league season in Argentina. It's split into two. We have what we call an apertura and clausura, like an opening and closing, literally 2 halves of the season. And I believe in both halves of the season this year, correct me if I'm wrong, Guy, we have 2 large groups that play in a league type format, and then the top teams go into like a playoff knockout from that. No,
Exactly. To the 2 groups, the top 8 from both groups are 15 because the league has got 30 teams in it this year. The top 8 from both of those pools of 15 will go into the round of 16 together, like we just had now. I mean, it's going to be a repeat of the same format.
it's mental, isn't it? I mean, it's like the Premier League being cut in half. You play half the teams, and then you go into a quarterfinal, semi-final, and final playoff. There's no actual league season when you think about it, because all champions are decided after a playoff round. Who that was built to try and help out, I'm not going to speculate. We could do a full podcast on this, but it definitely would not have been Platense. So well done to them. And there's a new champion, Argentina, and it means that this minnow will be playing in the Copa Libertadores next year. We're going to go back to Brazil, Pedro, because one man who is not a minnow by any means is Carlo Ancelotti. The Italian legend has left Real Madrid and he has landed on the Copacabana. He is the new manager of Brazil, and people are very excited about this now, but the pressure will come, as it has done for the last 3 managers of Brazil that have all been dismissed pretty quickly. Pedro, give listeners an idea of why Carlo Ancelotti has had to come to Brazil, what the managerial crisis for Brazil has been, and the state of the national team at the moment.
Going back to the last World Cup, it was a known fact that Tite would left after the World Cup. Ancelotti was always the first choice from the former CBF president, Reginaldo Pereira. It was like an interim coach just after the World Cup, Ramon Menezes. Then we moved to Fernando Diniz, who just won the Libertadores with Fluminense at the time. The idea would be like to have Diniz for 1 year after Ancelotti would come. But the thing was that Ancelotti got a new contract with Real Madrid. Diniz went very bad, so he was fired. Then they brought Dorival. He was like the reigning champion, cup champion with São Paulo, but he's not a great coach. He's more like, as we say, a paizão. Paizão is more like a big dad. So
a father figure, perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. He was fired after the Argentina game, so they moved again to Ancelotti. Brazil definitely will go to the World Cup. It's not the best generation in terms of talent in Brazil history, of course not, but you have good talent. You have Vinicius Junior, you have Rafinha, you have Rodrigo. I don't know if we have Neymar, but okay, you have Alisson. You have great players. So the thing is, we should play better than what we are playing right now. So that's basically the expectations. Of course, always Brazil's when goes to the World Cup, every single World Cup, you have the expectations to be world champions. Because you compare, as I say, you compare Brazil's with Brazil's history. So you don't compare Brazil with other teams. You compare Brazil's teams with Brazil's history. Other teams, other generations, definitely there is a pressure to be better, but it's also a pressure to be champions, world champions next year. These games right now against Ecuador and Paraguay. Probably won't be Ancelotti team. Ancelotti went to 3 games here at Brazil already. He went to Botafogo games at Libertadores, Botafogo and Laú, Universidade de Chile. Botafogo won 1-0 with playing with one with playing with 10 players since the first half. He went to Flamengo on the day after. He went to Flamengo games at Libertadores against Deportivo Táchira, and it was like a real bad game. And yesterday on Sunday, he went to Corinthians game. It was Corinthians and Vitória at São Paulo. It was new, horrible, horrible, horrible. Definitely the worst game of the weekend. It's kind of crazy.
Perhaps the highlight of his week so far then has not been the football, but his trip to Christ the Redeemer.
He's probably having a great retirement. It's like he's a millionaire. He's like a guy. He won everything he could during his career. He has a lot of money. So, mate, he's at Rio de Janeiro. He's living the dream. Sorry, guys. I mean, I can speak with property. Like, Rio is the best place to be. He probably will see him going to the sambas. He goes to the parties. He going to the Christ Redeemer. He goes to the beach. He drinking caipirinha. That's the thing. He will enjoy his life right now, definitely.
I have seen some funny things on social media this week. Basically, AI images mocked up of like Carlo Ancelotti at the samba, Carlo Ancelotti having caipirinhas on the beach, in the favela, on the moto taxi. Anyone who's been to Rio has enjoyed all of these incredible touristic and local experiences that the city has to offer. I'm yet to see a photo of him actually on the beach. We saw him get a blessing as he took in the view at Christ the Redeemer. We saw him go to the Brazilian Federation HQ, had a look at his office, which also sort of looks like his hotel room, which is interesting. You could tell the way he looked at this new room that it perhaps wasn't the same level of luxury he might have had at Real Madrid. But as you say, I'm sure he's having a good time in Brazil, eating well. You could see him having a laugh with the Brazilian chefs about the churrasco, the Brazilian meat, of course, which we enjoyed recently together, Pedro, in Rio de Janeiro. What an amazing place. We will have to dedicate a pod just to the city very, very soon. But like we said, if the results don't come and the form of the team doesn't change in the next year, that famous eyebrow we talked about will stay raised, because Brazilian fans, as famous as the team and the history of the national team across the world is for the style of play, Brazilian fans are not happy when they're not winning, are they?
No, they don't. And we are not winning for a long time. Brazil's plays like the Real Madrid from the last season, not this season, but from the last season. They were playing like in counterattacks. They were playing it. At the end of the day, if Brazil got the 6 star in the chest, people will be like, they won't remember anything of this. But there is much more pressure in Brazil media, in Brazil fans. They want Brazil to play great, to be great. It's different from the Argentinians, who is more like, we need to win whatever it costs. In Brazil, you have more like, we have to play good so we can have a chance to win.
I'm sure Guy can attest to that attitude in Argentina, albeit they haven't had to worry about that recently because they've been playing great football. They've won absolutely everything they've competed in since Scaloni has taken over. They have the luxury of leaving recently crowned Premier League champion on his holidays. Alexis McAllister, who was vital for Liverpool this year, is not going to be in the squad for the upcoming internationals. But Argentina, of course, have already qualified for the World Cup. Recently, they smashed Brazil in qualifying. Guy, at this stage, do Argentina just want to pass the next year without any injuries or major hiccups?
The way the squad was called up for these games against away at Chile, who are rock bottom of the group of the qualifying stage, they're in a dire position. They're 10th, and the game home to Colombia. Look, the way the squad was called up was odd. I mean, the players who play outside of Argentina, the large majority of the squad was called up on its own, and then Scaloni decided to call up a few players from Argentine football. Amongst those, you got Kevin Lamonico, the centre back from Independiente, and the most interesting one is Franco Mastantuono, the River Plate starlet, who's really looking like he's got great potential and may even join PSG this summer. It's going to be a period to see what these players can do, to bed these players in. Messi is there as well, but it's about bedding these players in. It really is about seeing if we can move on to the next generation and get them in a position to make a difference at a World Cup. Like you said, they've got a luxury. And I think Scaloni is going to really try and take advantage of that.
So Argentina are trying new things out. I think their solidity more than anything and the team ethic over the last 4 or 5 years has been incredible. I sort of say that they're almost like a club team. They're quite unique in the sense that it's like these guys have been together forever. Obviously, when they won the first Copa America title a few years ago, they spent the best part of 3 months in quarantine together, and that seemed to have a really, really big impact on the dressing room in a positive way, of course, when they got Lionel Messi his first ever title as an Argentina player there, beating Brazil in the final at Maracanã. So Argentina are chilling at the moment, trying new things out. Brazil have got those games away to Ecuador and hosting Paraguay. As Pedro mentioned, don't exactly expect an Ancelotti team or style yet. He'll get a bit of leeway this time round, but come the next international break in September and then the one after that in October, if he hasn't made a mark on this team and they haven't improved, then we might see a little bit of pressure. In other news for South American qualifying, of course, the top 6 sides will qualify automatically for the World Cup. Colombia host Peru later this week. If they win that as the team in 6th place, they'll put themselves in a really good position to secure that spot. And below them, a really, really interesting game is Venezuela against Bolivia. There's 1 point between the two of those. They're fighting for the playoff spot, 7th place. Venezuela, never been to World Cup. Of course, a massive Venezuelan population in the likes of the US. So it'd be pretty magic if they got there. Meanwhile, Bolivia have been using the altitude to beat a lot of teams at home and creep up the table. Finally, lads, today we saw the draw for the Libertadores last 16. Pedro's a Botafogo fan. Guy, Boca Juniors, sadly not in the tournament this year. But from an Argentinian point of view, 4 teams from Argentina top the group. Surprised a lot of the Brazilian teams with some big results. Even Cordoba winning in the Maracanã against Flamengo, despite not even making out of the group in the end. Racing, of course, winning the Copa Sudamericana last year. If you're watching this with us on YouTube, the draw will appear on the screen at the moment. Guy, from an Argentinian point of view, what's most interesting there, and which Argentine side perhaps has the best chance to go on and win this tournament?
Look, you mentioned Central Córdoba from Santiago del Estero. I was so gutted to see that they didn't make it through. They dropped down into the Sudamericana on goal difference. I mean, they beat Flamengo in the Maracanã. Just incredible. For me, it's going to be Racing are going to be the team to watch from the Argentine perspective. They're in the form of their life. I mean, I know that they didn't make it through against Platense, but they are on a roll. Like we said with the national team, they're on a roll. They're there to beat everyone. I think they are a team that can beat everyone on their day. I mean, they showed that in the Copa Sudamericana. They played in the group stage against Fortaleza, who they played in the final last year, and they dispatched them very easily. So I think Racing are the team to watch. Look, River are always going to be competing. They made it to the semi-final last year against Mineiro, but with Gallardo, they haven't found the way to win. When it comes to the crunch, they've suffered. They haven't found that clinical instinct that the winning teams do, and that's what Racing have done. Under Gustavo Portas, who is born and bred Racing, as a player he was a captain. You know, as a boy he was a mascot at the club, and he's been the manager now for a couple of years. We're talking about someone who lives and breathes Racing. You know, Racing are the team for me that everyone should watch. And I think this year could be their year. They've only won one Copa Libertadores, and I think they'd really like to add to that.
There's definitely something in the air with Racing. You mentioned the manager there, who absolutamente loco comes to mind. The guy is crazy. There's no way to romanticize that. He's absolutely crazy. He doesn't wear red, he says, because they're rivals, of course. Independiente play in red.
Sorry, can I just say, on the weekend, no, not on the weekend, sorry, the last game of the Libertadores in the group stage, there was a photographer sat next to the bench, and he said, no, don't come near me because you've got a red bib on. He wouldn't let a photographer come near him because he had a red bib on.
There you go. Says it all.
About someone who is absolutely enfermo. He's just sick.
He's
for
sick.
Racing.
It's infectious though, isn't it? And you feel like in a mad way, it's almost like a witchcraft that has washed over this team. And it took them to the Sudamericana Championship last year. It also took them to Pedro's home. I was actually with Pedro briefly the night when they played the Recopa, which is the equivalent of the European Super Cup, the would-be Europa League Sudamericana winners, which were Racing against Botafogo, who won the Copa Libertadores for the first time last year. And Racing went to Rio at the start of this year, played really well, and were deserved victors over the two legs. Now they will face off against Peñarol of Uruguay in the last 16 of the tournament, which sees the final come to Lima in Peru on the 29th of November. Pedro, from the Brazilian perspective, big teams in there. Botafogo obviously are the holders. Flamengo and Palmeiras probably the favourites. You've got Inter, who come up against Flamengo, Inter from Porto Alegre. Sao Paulo are still there. Fortaleza are still there.
Yeah, definitely. Flamengo won the draw because I presume it's the same thing about Racing. Besides playing how they are playing, they are in the easiest side of the bracket. The best teams definitely are on the left side, as Palmeiras, River, maybe Botafogo, maybe São Paulo, LDU, who has like the altitude, right? So they are probably definitely they are the best side, the strongest side from the brackets. In the other side, you have like two great teams, that is Racing and Flamengo. So everyone here in Brazil is talking about how Flamengo won the draw because Flamengo it's better than Inter. Right now, Inter it's really disappointed season, because they finished last season very strong, trying to be champions. They had a good team, they had a good coach, so we had a lot of expectations at Inter before the season began. And right now, Inter is not playing that good. So Flamengo is definitely the best team in this game. And another game that is very intriguing for me is Atlético Nacional and São Paulo, because São Paulo, they won the 3 games, away games, group stage, and Atlético Nacional won only the 3 games at home. So it's a bit intriguing, and São Paulo is not playing that good right now. They had a lot of injuries, but they are not that good at all. So, I mean, the best teams are definitely Palmeiras and Flamengo. We don't know how Botafogo will be there, which Botafogo will be there, because they are talking about selling Igor Jesus, 3 players to the Premier League, Igor Jesus, Cuiabano, and Jair. 3 great players to Nottingham Forest. But that's the thing, how Botafogo is managed right now. They sell and they buy in the same way. So we don't know how many players are coming. We don't know how many players are leaving. We don't know which players are coming, which players are leaving. It's basically a question mark on Botafogo. I don't think Fortaleza has any shot. Fortaleza lost yesterday 5-0 against Flamengo. Fortaleza, it's on the relegation zone. It's basically a fairy tale to be where they are right now.
Okay. Yeah, just looking at the draw there, the brackets are done, so we know which teams can meet others at the quarterfinal, semi-final stage. and which can't meet each other at all until the final. For example, Palmeiras and Flamengo cannot meet each other until the final. There are some tasty possibilities, though. The atmospheres, of course, will be incredible across the board. I think the home and away legs between Peñarol and Racing will be absolutely incredible.
Peñarol didn't have fans in the group stage. So right now they will get the fans back to the stadium.
A lot of the clubs that made the semi-finals of the continental tournaments last year all outdid each other night over night with the biggest fireworks display during the previas, the pre-match in perhaps football history. And then pretty much all of them had no fans in the stadiums to start the continental tournaments this year as a ban. Now that this tournament heats up, I do not know how they are going to keep the pyro out of these stadiums, knowing the nature of the fanfare and the culture down there in South America. It's always a party, it's always a fiesta, it's always in your face. And it's a real way that teams try and gain an advantage, to the extent that last year all the clubs were pretty much in cahoots with the fans in terms of organising these fireworks displays. And that's why I think the bans and the fines were so heavy too. But you could have a Palmeiras River Plate there. You know, you could see Flamengo even get to the quarters and come up against Estudiantes de La Plata, who topped a group that included reigning champions Botafogo. If you had to pick a winner or even a final right now, Guy, looking at that bracket, what would you say? I know it's far out, but have a go.
Do you know what's interesting about the side that River are on is that they're the only Argentine team on that side, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, correct.
Oh, that is difficult. Look, I think where Racing are from that side, they're going to come up against Peñarol and then could either come up against Fortaleza and Vélez. And I think for however good those teams are, I mean, Racing have beaten Fortaleza and Vélez are sort of finding their feet after having a dreadful first half of the season. They lost their championship winning manager to Gremio, who has now been sacked from Gremio and is on the beach basically. I think Racing will make the final. Flamengo could easily cause Racing problems, but I really think it's the year for Racing to at least make the final. I think Racing will make the final. And I think from the other side, can you really look past Palmeiras? I mean, 6 from 6, 18 points in their group stage. Who would say anything against them? I mean, you'd be a fool. Although I haven't watched any of Palmeiras, admittedly, you know, I'm in the dark on that. But look at that group stage and you think 18 points. Doesn't matter who they face in the group stage. If you're getting 18 from 18, you're on fire. So I think Racing Palmeiras is looking like a very possible final.
Just I remember that Esteban is leaving Palmeiras to Chelsea after the World Cup, so he's probably the best player at Palmeiras. Of course, Palmeiras, it's a great team, a great squad. So they have a lot of options in every single position. I go with, I don't know, mate. I definitely knows that the semifinal in that side will be Racing and Flamengo. And it's very tough to choose a side there, but I go with Racing. I mean, Felipe Luis, the Flamengo's coach, told us a lot of times that the Libertadores is not the priority this season. The priority is to win the Brasileirão. So, of course, he won't go with alternative team, but maybe at some point they will have to choose, like to change our focus. So, okay, I'm going with Racing. And part of my heart say that will be the rematch again with Botafogo, the rematch from the Recopa. But at the same time, I don't know which, but as I told you, I don't know which Botafogo will be at November, October. So right now I would go with, I will go with Palmeiras.
Two Palmeiras, so that's include finals.
I'm not confident at River at all. As Kai told us, like River is not that good right now. Maybe Palmeiras and Flamengo. I don't know. It's tough right now.
Of course. Okay. So two Racing times Palmeiras from the guys. Very likely that Jorginho is going to arrive in that Flamengo squad now. And Racing, if anything, could lose one or two between now and then is another thing. It would be an incredible semi-final matchup. I'm hoping for a surprise. I don't know who that will be. I think it was probably Peñarol last year getting to the semi-finals. But then, of course, they were well dispatched by Botafogo at that stage. Look, on paper, it's got a Palmeiras Flamengo final written all over it, but Racing will be there, River will be there, and I think Botafogo might have a say as well. If they can get into the last day, if they could play Sao Paulo there, would be a repeat of last year's quarterfinal, no? And whichever one of those teams get through, it would be incredible.
Botafogo can play against Palmeiras and São Paulo as the same last year. They defeat Palmeiras on the round of 16 and then São Paulo at the quarterfinals, and they can do the same thing, but the opposite. I hope so.
Yeah, of course. Amazing, guys. That is all we've got time for today. That's a deep dive into Brazil and Argentina on the inaugural Football Travel Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Football Travel Man and at the Atlantic Dispatch, and I will leave the guys' social media details in the bio as well. Guy is a freelance journalist based in Buenos Aires at the minute. Pedro works for Globo, one of the biggest broadcasters in Brazil. The guys are our football experts in Rio and Buenos Aires. Thanks so much for joining us today, guys. And hopefully, listener, you will hear more from Guy and Pedro on the podcasts to come. We're going to leave you with a short audio. It's the story of an 81-year-old man, a Platense fan, with tears in his eyes. You can practice your Spanish, and if not, what this man is saying is how much it means to him to witness the first ever title from his small club in his entire lifetime at 81 years of age. You don't really need to know the language to feel the passion and the emotion in his voice. So enjoy this one, guys. Thank you, and we will see you on episode 2, where we talk a little bit about Inter Milan and Juventus and move our focus onto the international break and the Club World Cup that is just 11 days away. Thanks very much, Guy.
See you later.
Thanks, Pedro.
See ya. Thank you.
¿Me entendés? Mirás el oído a ver a todos lados, querido.
¿Te imaginabas vivir un día como hoy, Platense campeón?
Porque lo llevo en el corazón como no me voy a imaginar.
Bien, bravo. ¿Estás emocionado?
Sí. Vamos, Platense, carajo.